If you're an aspiring writer, creative, actor, anybody who just wants to make art but finds it impossible to get into the entertainment industry, and things look really, really bleak, especially with social media killing the movie star and with AI potentially taking jobs away from artists, I do have some good news for you, in that the headwinds are working in your favor, and I'm going to explain how. The three topics of pop culture discourse right now are the Odyssey trailer, Heated Rivalry, a Canadian hockey TV series, and the release of Marty Supreme. The Odyssey trailer came out earlier this week, and aside from the general commentary that the armors looked too bland and dark for something set in ancient Greece, another thing that came up was that the cast was almost entirely made up of A-listers. Yet instead of enthusiasm, the public's reaction was to roll their eyes. Why did that happen? When did celebrity lose its value? This was not a problem back in the 50s. People say it's because social media exposed movie stars as nothing special. I'd say that this only scratches the surface. I'd argue that the Hollywood stars of the 1950s just had more character development. Because they grew up with World War II in their developmental years, which impacted their psyche. That changed them as people, and they have brought that into their performances. Audrey Hepburn suffered through famine and malnutrition as a teenager. She then spent the rest of her life donating to charitable causes, raising awareness for the need of food aid to impoverished children. Even people who weren't as directly affected, the war had increased their empathy. Marlon Brando's first movie was as a paralyzed veteran, and he had gone to Birmingham Veterans Hospital and lived with them in order to understand what that was like. And given his pattern of behavior later on in his career, this wasn't a publicity stunt. When Marlon Brando stuck up for minorities, he had no ulterior motive. This is why he had these deeply empathetic and real performances in On the Waterfront and Viva Zapata. His empathy and authenticity were not a performance, and that's what made both him and Audrey almost untouchable, and how widely the industry and the public respects their mastery of the craft. Contrast that to today, where most of the A-listers today were born in the 60s or 70s or well after that, and if they are a wealthy, well-connected person living in California, what character development do they really go through in their own lives that they can really bring to the screen? For example, Timothée Chalamet's Jake Paul-like PR campaign, compared to the authentic generosity of Audrey and Marlon, it starts to come off as vapid and tasteless. Rage bait and controversy never work in the long term, because they break the audience's trust. Social media is just a magnifying glass. It's not that social media ended the movie star, it's that today's movie stars lack character development due to their comfortable surroundings. Compare that to something like Heated Rivalry, which is a Canadian LGBT hockey drama that has become the darling of audiences worldwide. It is something that no one could have predicted would have become so big, and it's a really pleasant and uplifting surprise and a step in the right direction. This just proves that the public still has a hunger for good art. They just don't want the stuff that Hollywood has been putting out with the same 15, 16 elites being cast in everything, and the same 9 people writing and directing everything that's been happening for the last 20 years. I think audience members can tell when a TV show or movie was made out of service to the audience versus something that was made out of greed and ego. So if you're an aspiring creative, just know that there are people out there who want to hear the story you want to tell. They want to see still unknown actors who are up and coming with great portfolios. This doesn't mean that you have to have 15 IMDb Hollywood acting credits. It just means having a portfolio, such as a student film, a YouTube movie, or a TikTok channel where you write skits. Moreover, if you are an aspiring creative in the West, you don't have to go to Hollywood. You could help build the film ecosystem wherever you are. Heated Rivalry is a Canadian production. Arcane was a French production.